Hey everybody, this is Jerry Mateo within the DAW. Welcome back. Today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Ample Guitar Super Jumbo and Ample Guitar Luther. Luther is a really good sounding classical nylon string guitar, while Jumbo is a jumbo style guitar with steel strings. Let's just jump in and take a look at how this sounds. So we'll start off with Jumbo because the controls on Jumbo are the exact same for Luther. You just get different sample libraries. And let's just listen to how this sounds with no key switching. This is just how it sounds naturally. There are some things that I'm going to do, and that's going to be switching between the different articulations. So we have natural harmonics and palm mutes. And I'm going to see if I can throw in a couple of slide in and outs so you can see how good they sound. Here we go. Cool, so hopefully you notice that all of those sound really good. And the slide in and outs automatically transitioned back to open notes after they shifted into notes that just would not be viable to slide in and out. That is actually something that Ample Guitar automatically does with their sample libraries. They add the ability to automatically know what a guitar player would and would not be able to do. And that's not talking about a limitation of a basic guitar player. It's just physics, what you're physically able to do and what you're physically not able to do. Now you have other key switches and you have the ability to even control the overall velocity of each individual note or each individual string, which is really, really cool. You also have legato slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs, and they all sound just as good. You're also able to detune the strings, so you can go down by either a half step or a whole step, so you can go from E to D. And this works with even their ample bass J, which is the bass that we're using for this track. Now, as far as the tonal styles that you get for Super Jumbo, you have the body and stereo mic, the neck and stereo mic, the midside and mono mic, and for Luther, you have mono, midside 1, midside 2, and AB. You also have a capo that works for pretty much all of the sample libraries that I can see, at least the ones that I have, and this goes from the 0th fret to the 1st fret, all the way down to the 11th fret, and this has two different modes. You have the melody mode, which is in the range of 2 octaves, and the chord mode, which is the range of 5 frets. Let's listen to this really quickly. Really cool. It makes you be able to sound very natural while having a capo sound. I dig it. Now, you also have the normal MIDI keyboard section, which I just strummed through really loudly. I'll turn that down in post. But you also have a different mode, which is the picking mode. And as you probably heard from that, that sounds like really nice picking. Now, that actually uses the Strummer section right here. This is allowing you to actually create your own articulations on different types of strum styles, different notes, as well as different chords and stuff. This is really powerful and it allows you to really do whatever you want with this. Let's just select some random one. I don't know, we'll go for this one and we'll just play it. And you can even go further in here and convert it to a pattern in riffer, which is the riff section that allows you to actually create your individual riffs. This has articulations as far as the type of notes, the actual note that you hit, and things like velocity, speed, decay, bends, pretty much everything you want. This section is actually my favorite because it reminds me of the workflow I have inside of Easy Bass and Superior Drummer from TuneTrack. Those are plugins that I use pretty much all the time in almost every session. So this really works like that and helps me out a lot. The next section is the guitar tab section. Now this is really cool because you can import guitar profiles as far as what I can tell. And those are really powerful because you can basically tell it every single articulation that you want the guitar to have, right? The thing is, Guitar Pro sucks. It's just a MIDI synthesized guitar that never sounds realistic. But when you export the MIDI out of Guitar Pro and put it into a DAW, you have to add all of those key switches over again and every articulation change. Not so with Ample guitars. Really cool, right? Now, you also have control for an EQ, some compression, some delay, some reverb, which uses impulse responses, so it sounds really good. And as far as I can tell, you really have no limit in the bands, at least from what I've managed to do. I think I've managed like 12 bands and had 0 issues with that. You can control the settings of the plugin, control the actual notes and how they're going to be triggered, and you can choose between your library. So there is the strummed, and the thumb library. I like the thumb library. It's a little bit warmer. Now you have other articulations like guitar hits for the top and stuff like that, which I don't really use very often. And you have more finite things like controlling how the capo is going to be set up for its tension. And this basically leads you to have a lot of really cool and powerful controls. Now you're also able to have this sustain section, which essentially allows you to have these notes ring out naturally. Versus without it, it just sounds fake. This is actually the big difference between ample guitar samples and other ones. Other ones, you'll have to hold the note for pretty much forever unless you want it to die instantly. This one, it has some pretty smart options. Another thing is the modes. So we have playing modes, the ability to have instrument mode, which is going to basically limit what an instrument can do. So if we grab my MIDI keyboard, which is just my normal keyboard, these are on different strings, right? So, but if we have something on the same string, you're noticing it doesn't let me play both at the same time, unless I'm in keyboard mode. But that's not something a real guitar can do. You can't hit 2 frets on the same string. It just doesn't work. You also have the solo mode, which allows you to only play 1 note at a time per string, which is for solos. And then you have your auto legato, auto hammer-on, and auto slides. I really like this mode because it automatically will just find the proper type of articulation to fit. You have stroke noise, and then you have open string first. Now, we've heard Jumbo. Let's hear Luther. This is Luther right now, and I'm going to do the same thing when I switch between the articulations. So Luther has a much more woody sound, a little bit boxier of a sound, and that's just because classical guitars usually sound like that. So we could easily use this EQ section to tune it up. That was really quick. I simply just double click, change whatever I want, get rid of it if I don't. Really, really good. Again, Luther has the Strummer section. The riffer section. And the tap section. Really simple, really usable. And of course, Luther has the different type of articulations. Overall, I'm actually really impressed with these. If you are not a musician or not a guitar player and you need some really good sounding classical guitar samples, I highly recommend Luther. It sounds fantastic. Now, the Super Jumbo, I personally really like. It sounds very realistic. Steel string guitars are actually a little bit easier to reproduce, in my opinion, because you're usually ringing out notes more, and it's mostly hammer-ons and mutes and picking. So it doesn't have as much nuances, but it is definitely very powerful. And let's see what happens if we actually use both these tracks with no processing, by the way. So there's no EQ, no plugins, besides what I did inside the plugin itself, making the sound. So let's just see how this sounds. And it just repeats and repeats and repeats. I literally just wrote like a 4-bar rhythm and then just copied and pasted it. And the bass is using the Ample Bass Jazz. It has a similar design, only it has a couple more articulations because you obviously have like slap notes and stuff and slides. So it's really cool. Now this is actually using something a little bit different. We are using a plugin for this one. I believe we're using the Helix Native. Just because I use my Helix rack unit all the time, I'm using the Sans amp to give it a little bit of a beefier tone. And this has the basic same controls. You have the MIDI keyboard, you have the riffer, you have the tab section, and you have amps. Because this is a electric bass, you obviously have amps and cabinets. So you can choose to have the DI being prominent or having the actual microphone. You can pan them out, do whatever you want. And it has the basic same layout for EQ, compression, reverb, and delay. Overall, you really can't go wrong with any of these. Ample Bass J sounds fantastic. Ample Guitar Luther sounds fantastic. And Ample Guitar Super Jumbo sounds fantastic. So if you like these, you can check them out at amplesound.net. I've actually had these libraries for like almost a year. I just never had time to make a video. So I finally got to it. And that's it for this video. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification so you can know when we do whatever we do here. And consider checking out our website, inthedaw.com, for some free impulse responses and some free Line 6 Helix presets. This is Jerry Mateo with In the DAW, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.